Actually, I have an announcement too. My sister interrupted as I was sharing my promotion news. She had dropped out of college. My parents comforted her all evening while my achievement was forgotten. 6 months later, when she showed up at my door, desperate for help, I smiled and said, "Come in, Olivia. My name is Madison Taylor, and at 32, I have finally learned how to handle my family's dysfunction. For as long as I could remember, my younger sister, Olivia, had been the sun our family orbited around. Her problems, her achievements, her drama, everything took precedence over anyone else's needs, especially mine. 6 months earlier, I had invited my family to dinner at Bellini's, my favorite Italian restaurant, to celebrate a major career milestone. After 5 years of working overtime, managing impossible clients, and proving myself repeatedly, I had been promoted to marketing director at one of the largest firms in Seattle. The promotion came with a substantial salary increase, a corner office, and the professional recognition I had worked tirelessly to achieve. I had spent hours preparing for that dinner, reserving a private room, ordering champagne, and even printing copies of the press release announcing my promotion to share with my parents. I wanted them to be proud, to finally see that all those years of Madison working too much had led to something significant. The evening started well enough. My parents arrived on time, my father in his typical button-down shirt and my mother wearing the pearl necklace I had given her for Christmas. Olivia arrived 20 minutes late, but I had factored that into my planning. She always made an entrance. "Sorry, traffic was insane," she said, though we all lived within 15 minutes of the restaurant. "This place is so fancy, Maddie. Are you sure you can afford it?" She laughed as though she had made a joke, but the bar was clear. I chose to ignore it. Tonight was about celebration, not confrontation. After we ordered our meals, I tapped my glass gently with my fork. "I actually invited you all here because I have some exciting news to share." I couldn't help but smile as I reached for the press releases in my bag. "I've been promoted to marketing director. The announcement goes public tomorrow." But I wanted my family to be the first to know. My father's eyebrows raised slightly, the closest he ever came to showing surprise. And my mother reached across the table to squeeze my hand. "That's wonderful, dear," she said. Before I could continue, Olivia cleared her throat loudly. "Actually, I have an announcement too," she said, her voice rising above mine. "I've decided to drop out of college." The atmosphere in the room shifted instantly. My father's focus snapped to Olivia, his expression changing from mild interest to intense concern. My mother withdrew her hand from mine and turned to face my sister. "What? Why?" my mother asked, her voice quivering. "You're only one semester away from graduating." "I'm just not feeling it anymore," Olivia explained with a casual wave of her hand. "College is so restrictive. I need to find myself, you know. I've been thinking about traveling through Europe for a while, maybe doing some modeling. A few photographers have told me I have the look." I sat there, the press releases still in my hand, as my parents peppered Olivia with questions. No one asked anything more about my promotion. No one raised a glass to toast my achievement. Instead, my father began discussing how Olivia could find her passion, while my mother fretted about her future. "I'll need some money to get started," Olivia said casually, as though she were asking to borrow $5 instead of what would undoubtedly be thousands. "Just until I get established." My father nodded thoughtfully. "We'll figure something out. Your happiness is what matters most." I placed the press releases back in my bag, unread and unacknowledged. The waiter brought our food, and I ate mechanically, barely tasting the pasta I had been looking forward to all week. Olivia dominated the conversation, spinning elaborate plans for her European adventure, while my parents offered suggestions and support. When the check came, I paid it without comment. No one seemed to notice. As we walked to the parking lot, my mother finally remembered my news. "Oh, Madison, congratulations again on your promotion, was it?" "That's nice, dear." "Marketing director," I corrected quietly. Right, she said, already turning back to Olivia, who was describing the apartment she wanted to rent in Paris. I drove home alone that night, a familiar emptiness expanding in my chest. It wasn't the first time Olivia had stolen my moment, and it wouldn't be the last. But something felt different this time. Perhaps it was the magnitude of what had been dismissed, or perhaps it was simply that I had finally reached my limit. When I unlocked the door to my apartment, I made a decision. I wouldn't rage or sulk. I wouldn't demand the recognition I deserved. Instead, I would move forward, building a life so full and complete that it didn't depend on my family's validation. The next morning, I woke up with a clarity I hadn't felt in years. I went to work, accepted congratulations from colleagues who genuinely celebrated my success, and threw myself into my new role. Evenings and weekends that I might have spent with family, I now invested in myself, taking a photography class I had always been interested in, joining a hiking group, and strengthening friendships with people who showed up consistently. When my mother called to talk about Olivia's latest drama, I listened politely but briefly. When family dinners were scheduled, I attended but set clear time boundaries. I stopped trying to impress them with my accomplishments and simply lived my life on my terms. 3 months into my promotion, I was thriving. My team respected me, our department's performance had improved significantly, and I had even been featured in a local business magazine as one of Seattle's rising business leaders. I had rented a beautiful new apartment with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city and Lake Union. Most importantly, I had found a peace I hadn't experienced before, a contentment that came from validating myself rather than seeking approval from others. Then, 6 months after the infamous promotion dinner, my doorbell rang on a rainy Sunday afternoon. When I checked through the peephole, I was surprised to see Olivia standing there, mascara streaking down her face, hair disheveled, looking nothing like her usual polished self. I opened the door, and she practically fell inside, sobbing. "Madison, I need your help," she choked out. "Everything's gone wrong." I guided her to my living room sofa and handed her a tissue. "Take a deep breath, Olivia. What happened?" Between sobs, she explained that her European adventure had been a disaster. The modeling opportunities hadn't materialized. She had burned through the money our parents had given her and maxed out multiple credit cards. Now she was being evicted from her apartment, and she had to buy an emergency flight home with a credit card that was already over its limit. "Mom and Dad can't help anymore," she said, her voice small. "They already remortgaged the house to help me earlier, and they can't do more right now. I have nowhere to go, Madison. I need a place to stay, just until I figure things out. And maybe a loan. I promise I'll pay you back." As I looked at my sister, truly looked at her, I saw beyond the drama and the tears to the pattern that had defined our relationship for decades. She took, I gave. She demanded, I accommodated. She centered herself. I moved to the periphery. For a moment, I thought about all the times she had dismissed my achievements, all the moments she had stolen that should have been mine, all the ways our parents had enabled her at my expense. I could have said no. I could have listed all the reasons she didn't deserve my help. I could have turned her away and felt justified in doing so. Instead, I smiled and said, "I'll help you, Olivia, but things will be different this time." Her eyes widened with hope. "You will?" "Oh, thank you, Maddie. I knew I could count on you." "On one condition," I continued, my voice firm but kind. "You follow my rules while you're here. This isn't going to be like all the other times." The relief on Olivia's face faltered slightly. "What do you mean?" "I mean, I'll help you get back on your feet, but I'm not enabling the behaviors that got you here in the first place." That evening, I laid out my terms. She could stay in my guest room for 3 months. I'd help her find a job, but she would contribute to household expenses. No loans, but I would connect her with a financial advisor. And most importantly, we would attend family therapy together. "Therapy?" She looked horrified. "Mom and Dad will never agree to that." "This isn't about Mom and Dad. This is about you and me." Reluctantly, she agreed. What choice did she have? The first few weeks were challenging. Olivia was used to being catered to, not following someone else's rules. She'd leave dishes in the sink, stay out late without texting, and complain about the entry-level jobs I found suitable for her. "I can't work at a coffee shop. It's beneath me," she protested after her first interview. "Nothing honest is beneath anyone," I replied calmly. "Besides, it's temporary. You need income while you figure out your next steps." To my surprise, she took the job. Maybe it was desperation, or maybe something was finally shifting. Our first therapy session was tense. When Dr. Winters asked why we were there, Olivia immediately launched into a story about her failed European adventures, casting herself as the victim. "Actually," I interrupted gently, "we're here because I need to establish healthier boundaries with my sister." Dr. Winters nodded. "Madison, can you share an example of when boundaries were crossed?" I told her about my promotion dinner, about countless birthdays overshadowed by Olivia's dramas, about parents who prioritize one daughter's whims over another's achievements. Olivia sat silent, her face flushing deeper with each example. "That's not fair," she finally burst out. "You're making me sound terrible." "I'm not judging you," I said quietly. "I'm describing a pattern that's hurt me deeply." By the end of the session, something had shifted. On the drive home, Olivia stared out the window, uncharacteristically quiet. "Did you really feel that way all those times?" she asked eventually. "Invisible?" "Yes," I said simply. "I never thought about it like that." She paused. "I've been pretty self-centered, haven't I?" It was the first genuine self-reflection I'd ever heard from her. Over the following weeks, small changes became noticeable. Olivia started cleaning up after herself. She took initiative in applying for jobs and eventually found a position as an assistant at a local gallery that matched her interest in art. She even opened up during therapy, admitting she'd always felt pressured to be dramatic to get attention. "Madison made everything look so easy," she confessed. "Good grades, solid career, stable relationships. I couldn't compete with that, so I found other ways to stay in the spotlight." 2 months into our arrangement, our parents invited us to Sunday dinner. I almost declined, but Dr. Winters had encouraged us to practice our new communication patterns in familiar, challenging environments. When we arrived, the dynamic was immediately familiar. Mom fussed over Olivia, asking a dozen questions about her gallery job while barely acknowledging my presence. Dad jumped in with advice about how she could advance more quickly. I caught Olivia's eye across the table, expecting her to bask in the attention. Instead, she looked uncomfortable. "Actually," she said, interrupting our father's monologue, "I think Madison has some exciting news about work. Didn't you mention something about landing that big client?" The table fell silent. Our parents turned to me with matching expressions of surprise. "Yes," I said, recovering quickly. "We secured the Thompson account last week. It's the largest client in the company's history." "That's wonderful," my mother said, clearly caught off guard by the shift in focus. "Madison's been crushing it at work," Olivia continued, "and she's been helping me get my life together too. I wouldn't have this gallery job without her." Our parents exchanged confused glances, unsure how to navigate this new dynamic. After dinner, as we prepared to leave, my father pulled me aside. "Your sister seems different," he said hesitantly. "We both are," I replied. In the car, Olivia turned to me. "Did you see their faces? They didn't know what hit them." I laughed. "It'll take more than one dinner to change decades of patterns." "Well, I'm ready if you are," she said with unexpected determination. 3 months turned into 4, and Olivia didn't mention moving out. Instead, she increased her rent contribution and took over grocery shopping. Our therapy sessions continued, now focused on maintaining our improved relationship while rebuilding healthy connections with our parents. 6 months after she'd arrived crying at my door, we hosted a dinner party at my apartment. As Olivia charmed my colleagues and friends with stories about the gallery, I watched her with a mixture of pride and amazement. This confident, considerate woman barely resembled the self-centered sister I'd grown up with. Later, as we cleaned up together, she handed me a small, wrapped package. "What's this?" I asked. "Just open it," she urged. Inside was a framed press release, my promotion announcement from a year ago. She'd had it professionally matted and framed. "I found it in your desk drawer when I was looking for stamps," she explained. "I realized no one ever really celebrated this with you." She hesitated. "I'm sorry, Madison. I'm sorry I stole your moment." I felt the weight of years of resentment lift as I hugged my sister, perhaps genuinely for the first time in our adult lives. Sometimes the most satisfying endings don't come from rejection or revenge, but from transformation. By helping Olivia when she needed it most, but on my terms, I hadn't just changed our relationship. I'd helped her become someone who could finally see beyond herself. When she eventually moved into her own apartment 3 blocks from mine, our weekly sister dinners continued. And when she got promoted at the gallery a year later, I was the first person she called to celebrate. The broken patterns of a lifetime had finally begun to heal. The healing between Olivia and me didn't happen overnight, and it certainly didn't mean our parents immediately changed their ways. Old patterns run deep, especially in families. About a year after Olivia showed up at my door, I received an unexpected invitation from my mother to meet for lunch, just the two of us. This was unusual. Our interactions typically revolved around family gatherings where Olivia was always present. We met at a small cafe near my office. My mother seemed nervous, fidgeting with her napkin and making small talk about the weather before finally getting to the point. "Your father and I have been talking," she said, her voice uncharacteristically hesitant. "And we've noticed some changes in you and Olivia." I nodded but said nothing, waiting for her to continue. "The way you two interact now, it's so different. And the way Olivia talks about you." She looked down at her untouched salad. "She told us about the therapy, about the patterns in our family." My heartbeat quickened. I hadn't expected Olivia to broach that subject with our parents. "At first, your father was defensive. So was I," she admitted. "But we've been doing some thinking," and she reached across the table to take my hand. "Madison, I owe you an apology." The words I'd never expected to hear from my mother hung in the air between us. For years, we focused so much on Olivia's needs, her crisis, her drama, that we never really saw you. Or rather, we saw your competence and success and assumed you didn't need us. "I did need you," I said softly, "just not in the same way Olivia did." My mother's eyes filled with tears. "I know that now. And I'm so sorry it took us this long to realize what we've done." That lunch marked the beginning of another transformation in our family. My parents started making efforts to acknowledge my accomplishments and showed genuine interest in my life. My father called regularly to ask about work. My mother remembered details about projects I mentioned and followed up on them later. There were still missteps, and old habits crept in, but now there was a willingness to recognize them and course correct that hadn't existed before. 6 months after that lunch, I achieved another major milestone at work, a promotion to vice president of marketing. This time, when I invited my family to dinner to celebrate, the evening unfolded very differently. My parents arrived with flowers and a card. Olivia brought a bottle of champagne. When I shared my news, they listened attentively, asking thoughtful questions about my new responsibilities. Olivia toasted me, genuinely celebrating my success without trying to redirect attention to herself. After dinner, my father pulled me aside. "I'm not very good at saying these things," he began awkwardly. "But I want you to know how proud I am of you, Madison, not just for your professional achievements, but for the person you've become. The way you helped your sister when she needed it, even after." He trailed off, clearly uncomfortable acknowledging past hurts. "I'm not very good at saying these things," he began awkwardly. "But I want you to know how proud I am of you, Madison, not just for your professional achievements, but for the person you've become. The way you helped your sister when she needed it, even after." He trailed off, clearly uncomfortable acknowledging past hurts. "Thank you, Dad," I said, giving him a hug that seemed to surprise both of us. That night, as I drove home from the restaurant, I reflected on the journey of the past 18 months. What had started as one of the most hurtful experiences of my life, having my promotion overshadowed by Olivia's drama, had ultimately led to healing I never thought possible. By setting boundaries while still offering help, I created space for my sister to grow. By speaking my truth in therapy, I'd finally been heard. And by choosing compassion over rejection when Olivia needed me, I'd helped catalyze change throughout our family system. Today, 2 years after that fateful promotion dinner, our family is still a work in progress. Old habits occasionally resurface, and we're still learning how to communicate honestly without hurting each other. But the difference is palpable. Olivia has found stability and purpose in her gallery career, recently being promoted to assistant curator. She's dating someone who appreciates her for her genuine qualities, not her drama. We meet for coffee every week, a relationship I never imagined possible growing up. My parents are making efforts to distribute their attention more evenly. They've even started seeing a therapist of their own, something that would have been unthinkable a few years ago. As for me, I've learned that sometimes the most powerful response to being hurt isn't cutting people off or seeking revenge. It's setting clear boundaries while offering a path to something better. My career continues to flourish, but more importantly, I no longer measure my worth by others' recognition. Last month, Olivia and I took a weekend trip to the coast to celebrate our birthdays. They're 2 weeks apart. Sitting on the beach, watching the sunset, she turned to me with unusual seriousness. "You know, when I showed up at your door that day, I expected you to turn me away. I would have deserved it." "That's not who I wanted to be," I replied. "You could have used that moment to get back at me for all the times I stole your spotlight," she continued. "Instead, you helped me become better." I don't think I ever properly thanked you for that. I smiled, watching the waves roll in. Sometimes the best revenge is creating a life where old patterns can't survive. The sister who once saw me only as competition has become one of my closest allies. The family that once overlooked me now makes an effort to truly see me, and I've discovered a strength within myself that no longer depends on external validation. Some might say I gave Olivia exactly what she wanted that day, help when she needed it most. But what I gave her was something far more valuable, the chance to become someone better than she had been. And in doing so, I became someone better too. That's the thing about families, they can wound us deeply, but they can also be the place where the most profound healing begins. Not by forgetting the past, but by creating a future where old wounds no longer define us. As the sun dipped below the horizon, I realized that sometimes the happy endings we get aren't the ones we imagined for ourselves. There's something altogether more complex, more hard-won, and ultimately more meaningful than we ever could have planned. As the years passed, our family continued to evolve in ways I never imagined possible. Olivia flourished at the gallery, eventually becoming head curator and organizing exhibitions that gained national attention. She developed a talent for discovering emerging artists, particularly those from marginalized communities. The drama queen who once needed to be the center of attention now found fulfillment in highlighting others' work. My relationship with my parents deepened gradually. There were still occasional moments when old habits resurfaced, like when my mother instinctively turned to comfort Olivia after she received mild criticism at a family dinner. But now we could gently point out these patterns without major conflict. "Mom," I said quietly that evening, "I think Olivia's got this." My mother paused, then nodded with understanding. "You're right, sorry, old habits." These small moments of awareness accumulated over time, gradually building a healthier family dynamic. 3 years after that fateful promotion dinner, I received an unexpected job offer from a major international firm. The position, Chief Marketing Officer, would require relocating to London. When I shared the news with my family, their reactions surprised me. "That's incredible, Madison," Olivia exclaimed, genuinely excited for me. My father, who once barely acknowledged my career, peppered me with thoughtful questions about the opportunity. My mother, instead of worrying about how my absence would affect the family, asked when she could visit London. "We're going to miss you terribly," she said, "but this is too good to pass up." As I packed up my Seattle apartment, Olivia helped me sort through years of accumulated belongings. In a box of childhood mementos, I found a crude drawing I'd made in elementary school, a family portrait where I had drawn myself smaller than everyone else, standing slightly apart. "Look at this," I said, showing it to Olivia. She studied it, her expression growing somber. "God, that breaks my heart. Is that really how you saw yourself?" "For a long time, yes." "And now?" she asked. I considered the question carefully. Now I know my worth doesn't depend on how much space I'm allowed to take up in this family. 2 weeks before my departure, my parents hosted a going-away party. As guests mingled in their backyard, my father clinked his glass for a toast. "I want to say something about my remarkable daughter," he began, his voice catching slightly. "Madison has always been the steady one, the achiever who never needed much fanfare. For too long, we mistook her self-sufficiency for not needing recognition or support." I felt tears forming as he continued. "It took us far too long to see how exceptional she truly is. London is gaining a brilliant business mind, and we're losing, temporarily at least, the person who taught this family what real strength looks like." Later that evening, as the party wound down, Olivia pulled me aside. "I've been thinking about all this," she said, gesturing around. "How different things are now." "It's pretty amazing," I agreed. "You know what's funny? When I showed up at your door that day, I thought I was the one who needed saving." She smiled. "Turns out, you saved all of us." Now, 5 years after that promotion dinner when my sister stole my spotlight, I'm standing on the balcony of my London flat, watching the city lights. My career has exceeded my wildest expectations. I'm respected in my industry, leading global campaigns that have earned international awards. But my greatest achievement isn't listed on my resume or displayed on my office wall. It's the family who now celebrates my victories as enthusiastically as they support each other through failures. It's the sister who calls me weekly for advice rather than bailouts. It's the parents who have learned to see and value all of me. Sometimes the most unexpected twists in our stories lead to the most beautiful conclusions. By helping Olivia when she needed it most, but on my terms, I didn't just transform our relationship, I helped reshape our entire family system. As Olivia likes to say whenever we reflect on our journey, who would have thought your biggest promotion would be promoting all of us to a better version of family?